All right, welcome everyone. We are on the fifth week, which is exciting, for the Aligned Coaching group call. And today we're really going to focus in on identifying your ideal client and beginning to have a conversation around connecting with them too. And we'll dive into a little bit more of this next week as well. This week and next week really correspond nicely with one another. So I'd like to start a little different today. I want to start by simply connecting all of us together as a group, and then we'll dive in after that. So I'd love for you, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes, whether you're here live or listening on the replay. I'd like to take a moment just to connect all of us together. I know we're in different locations, but connecting each other by our hearts. And so I'm connecting my heart to Saran's to Amanda's to Tess, listening on replay, Tess, to Miranda's, to Nisha, and Nisha, back to mine. I'm sorry, Nisha to Julie, and Julie back to mine. And as we connect our hearts, we up-level together. We hold space for one another to grow and expand. You can begin to open your eyes and bring your attention back. And we'll get started. So the first thing that I wanted to start with today is having each of you just going around, first of all, everyone that's live, and sharing a celebration, and then sharing your intention, because we're getting clear on intentions every time, and then what you'd like to gain from the call today, so that I can help tailor my message uniquely to you. So whoever wants to go first, but a celebration, your intention, and then what you'd like to gain today.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Not sure if I'm ready, but I'll try. Celebration. Last week I went to a fundraising workshop through the Truckee Tahoe Community Foundation, and it was really powerful. And then afterward, one of my friends asked me for lunch, and we got to talking, and he just like totally opened up to me about like battling with depression, and we had this just really great conversation about the power of shifting our learning to do the self-love and the power that that has to heal the world. And anyway, so this, I guess the celebration component is that I've been getting a lot of people that seem to think that my coaching business is a really good idea. So that feels really good. I guess some validation that I'm on the right track. My intention is to get really clear on, because I feel like I've been spending a lot of time marinating on the concepts and not really getting any forward momentum. Like the thoughts are still kind of spinning around, and occasionally I'll write them down. So my intention is to start building some forward momentum and actual tangible progress. And I'm not 100% sure if I have a specific that I want to gain today. I guess anything that can help me move forward on some tangible action items would be really great.
Great. And then how about your intention at large for so by the end of December, how do you desire to feel, and what intentions or what specific goals would you like to accomplish by then?
I feel joyful and fulfilled because I'm working directly with, I'm starting to think that I would like to work with a group of people so that everybody can sort of bounce ideas off of each other and create like a spontaneous support network. So by December, I intend to have sort of a curriculum developed for a group call or a group, and then launch that this winter. And everybody, I'll feel fulfilled and joyful because I'll be doing what I love, and I'll feel fulfilled because I'm making a positive impact on the world and up-leveling people's consciousness to help heal social and environmental injustices.
Beautiful. I love it. Do you feel how clear that was compared to the first week when you shared?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the clarity there. Yeah. Beautiful. Saran, do you want to share?
So my celebration, so it feels like lots of things are happening suddenly, and they're not big things, but just it feels like I am taking more action, and like there's loads of little things that are coming together unexpectedly. So I feel like I'm starting to get some momentum. I feel like I've been very similar to Amanda, like marinating on ideas and sort of dealing with a lot of mindset stuff. And that, just before the call, I was writing down what I'm doing for the rest of the week on this. And, some solid actual work that I can put out into the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like I've got some momentum starting, and my smaller intention is to really go with that, just to let that happen and push it further and further. In terms of my overall intention, by the end of December, I want to feel excited and super energetic, and because I'm out there, I'm visible, I'm sharing my journey to become a writer, and that's helping other people who aren't as far along the road as I am, to figure out how to get moving, get momentum. So I have momentum as a writer. I want to share how I got there, and the sort of experiments that I'm doing now at the moment. So yeah.
Beautiful. And then is there anything specific today that would be helpful for you to receive on the call?
There's nothing specific. I've read through the workbook. I don't understand the energetic alignment piece. So I'm sure we'll cover that.
Yes. Beautiful.
Oh, and I'm really sorry, everyone, about my dress. I didn't realise that the stripes thing really happened. Is that vibrating for you?
Oh, yeah. I kind of like it. It's like this. It's this added, like I can see your vibration today through your stripes. So I don't know about you guys, but I like it. Beautiful. Okay. So a few things that I definitely wanted to touch on today are the energetic alignment. So I'm glad you brought that up, Saran. The second part is excitement, gathering excitement around connecting with those ideal clients, gathering excitement around topics, and really, essentially it kind of comes back to the alignment piece. But we're also going to talk about the tangible side of that too, which I think will be really helpful since both of you described desiring more support in the tangible area. And so today, I don't think we'll spend a ton of time. We might, depending on your needs, but we won't spend a ton of time dissecting this unless you desire. And we'll spend maybe a little bit more time doing support and coaching for your individual needs too. So the first part that I want to share on is the energetic alignment piece. So the exercise that in the workbook that I have you do is, and even just right now, asking yourself, now you might have a picture or an idea of who you want to serve. It might not be fine-tuned, but you have, a general picture of those people you want to serve. And so if they were invited into your mind right now, how would they feel? Would they be excited to see how you deal with conflict? Would they be excited to see how you deal with writing difficulties? Would they feel expansive when thinking about mindset work around scarcity or around abundance? Would they be impressed on your ability to dance with chaos? Would they be impressed with your daily habits and your morning rituals? And so when you think about that, just from that simple standpoint, what comes up in general?
I hate the thought of someone inside my head.
You're like, get out.
Me too. It's like I have all these like self-judging thoughts coming up, like, oh well, if they saw my routine, they'd be like, what you're not accomplishing anything. And that's an internal battle that I have every day, is like, I'm doing, like, okay, I know what I want to do, but I feel like I'm not making it forward momentum. And how am I going to coach somebody else through that? Or the other day when I was cleaning my house and I realized I was like, I'm really embarrassed by my mess. And then I was like, why am I embarrassed by it? It just is. Just embrace my chaos.
Yeah. And so I think the interesting thing that often comes up here is people feeling like a fraud. Ultimately, like, oh, I feel like a fraud, or I don't feel like I can teach on this because of X, Y, and Z. And so I know this is more of kind of walking your talk and mindset work, but it's pretty powerful before you're really truly able to connect with someone else. That connection with yourself is really the foundation. Like, that is the groundwork. That's the cement. That's the foundation of the house, is you having your conversation with your own self, you in your daily practices with your own self. When you think about that, that's where confidence comes from. That is truly where that confidence comes from, is when you take aligned action over and over again and you begin to see and experience the results from them. And so the piece that I just wanted to share here is, so often when we talk about ideal clients, we look outward. We only look at the clients. Mm-hmm. We're like, oh, they are women, they are millennials, they are, writers, we kind of look externally, but we're not doing some of the mirror work or the shadow work inside of us. And why do you think that piece, I know I just shared a little on this, but why else do you think that piece is important? To look at the mirror at yourself first.
Because that's where you can affect change. And so I was just struck by this exercise just now, that when I start thinking about somebody else being in my brain, that's when I start noticing my own internal judgments coming up. And that's where I need to make the change, where I'm being hard on myself, is when that like judgment of like, oh, they're going to think X of me. It's like, no, actually they're not thinking that. I'm thinking that. I'm being hard on myself. And then, and that's ultimately what I want to help people with, is to help, because I think that sense of humanity, that we're not perfect. We're humans. We all have like this dark side and this light side. And I think that being able to shine a light on the judgmental thoughts and the negative self-talk in a loving, healthy kind of way is like, that's what the whole thing is about, is learning to just have love and self-compassion for even those parts that are challenging. So then when I frame it in that way, then I'm like, oh, okay, so I don't mind somebody being in my head now, because then they see that I struggle with the same thing. We all have these things, and they could see, like watch my like self-talk and like, oh, and then I start to get better at being my own best buddy and talking differently to myself when I notice
Yes. Yes. It's like, how can I befriend myself, essentially? How can I become BFFs with myself first? And in doing so, it becomes a lot easier and much more effortless in doing that with others. So yeah, Amanda, you hit that spot on with me being able to do that for myself. I feel differently. I show up differently.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to other people differently.
Mm-hmm.
When there's an element of self-love or dancing with the chaos or appreciating my shadows, I show up differently in a conversation with you two right now.
Heck yeah.
Whereas if I'm doubting myself and scared or, uncertain about how worthy I am, I show up differently for you. Whether you can experience that or not overtly, there is a shift in how you show up. And so before you're truly able to show up for others, that's why I have you dive into this a little bit, is how can I congratulate myself every single time I dance in the chaos? I love myself. I congratulate myself for noticing difficulties going on. How can I congratulate myself in those moments? Because in those moments, those singular, tiny, simple moments, that is where I'm able to truly connect with my ideal client. What's coming up?
So in order, I'm just sort of saying if I understand. So in order to connect with a client, you have to first connect with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like that thing where you can't really have a loving relationship without loving yourself first.
Totally. Yeah. So to put this in like a tangible example, and I'll just share this because it's fresh with me, is visibility. Like I had this fear around being visible. And I was like, what fear is this pushing up against for me? And so I asked that, what am I most scared of? And what came out is that people are going to perceive me as a bitch, that people are going to think I am obsessed with money, that people are going to think I'm an entitled millennial bitch, essentially. Like that's what came forward. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so I then went to my truths around visibility and around wealth. And I was like, I know that when I'm connected with myself and with source, that I personally am magnetizing and I share from a space of truth. And that is so easy for me to connect with people then. And so me going through that little process of like, oh, what the heck's going on? I wouldn't have been able to teach on visibility as well if I wouldn't have went through that little process. Because for me, I was like, oh, that's what's coming up for me. I'm able to own it, to realize it. And now I can share that. I can share that with you right now, like I'm doing, and turning it into a lesson for expansion around being visible, and that it's safe for me to work through my obstacles around being visible, and thus I can teach that to you. So that's kind of is that helpful, Saran, to kind of give like a tangible example of walking through that process?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so you likely do this each day. You know, I don't feel like doing anything. Okay, what do I choose to do in that situation? And so you're doing it sometimes unconsciously, but you're doing it. And so it's now bringing attention to it and celebrating those small successes. Like, hey, good job, Tina, for noticing around your visibility. And now it's not as scary. And I think this is so interesting. The interesting thing that happened is right after I identified that, about 20 people joined my Facebook group, about 30 people joined my email list. And so the results were just like waiting to happen. But until I could like get on board with that, it didn't happen. And so very quickly after, I started to realize that. And so I think that's the important piece around this whole connecting to your ideal clients is how can you connect with yourself first? The more you can connect with you, the easier it will be to connect with others, because all it is at that point is conveying the message, because you've already done it. You don't have to like think of a strategy. You don't have to think of a process. You're doing it every day. And so that is the process. That is the tool. That is the skill. Questions, reflections, anything coming up on that?
I may be overcomplicating things, but so when you explained that example, did you just, and I may be getting bogged down in mechanics, but did you just think it, just like go through the thought process in your head, or did you write it or do something else?
I wrote it down. I was going to see if I have my journal right here. It's got to be close by. But I physically wrote it down.
Okay.
So in my journal, I said, what am I most scared of in being visible? And then like four different beliefs came up. I shared with you one. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And so after I wrote down those beliefs and just like, oh, that's interesting, and also untrue, I didn't judge it. I didn't like analyze it. I didn't dissect it. I was just like, oh, interesting. Okay. I can see where those came from, whatever. And then I went directly to my beliefs. What are my truths right now? And having them written out, this might be a nice exercise for everyone to do, is simply writing out their truths. What are my truths? What are my core beliefs? And so when you have these thoughts that are limiting, you can just go back to those core beliefs and say, oh, you know what? These aren't my truths. And so it was easy for me to release that because I knew it wasn't true, and I didn't want it to be true moving forward. And yeah, so that's like specifically how I wrote that out. And then if you want to add on a step to that, you can write, how would I feel 100% living that new belief or that new truth, so that you can start to infuse it even a little bit more. Yeah, so that's a mental process that you can go through. And that's what I do, is that's my common one, is what is this fear rubbing up against, or what am I most scared of in this situation? Naming it, sharing the truth behind it, and then moving forward. And usually using it as a teaching lesson. If I'm ready to share it now, great. If I'm not, I just put it in my document for me to share later. But it's a lesson that I've learned through walking my talk that other people are going to connect really deeply with, because that's how it works. People connect with your message when you're sharing your truth. So do you see the difference between that and then writing content? I need to write content today. Ting, 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 ting. Versus, this is my truth. This is me walking my talk. I'm just going to share that journey with you. Do you feel the difference between those two?
Yeah, I think about the Facebook post I contacted you through, and it was I can't remember all the details, but it was quite vulnerable, and it just struck me as really true. It was, and really brave to put it out there. So that connected with me, obviously, or I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my truth. Simply that is how I write my content. And so that doesn't mean you have to write yours that way, but that works really well. And so if that connects with you, beautiful. It's just a very authentic and a little bit scary and vulnerable and expansive. That helps me grow to share that, and I know it's helping other people grow to hear that as well. Yeah.
That piece.
Oh, go ahead.
That piece about knowing that it's helping others has been helping me open up and be more vulnerable and talk about my truths openly. And it feels really good to be this is my experience, and then know that it's helping somebody else that maybe was afraid to admit those things or whatever. So it's helping up level. So we're not so afraid of our emotions and what goes on internally, hopefully.
Yeah. So that's you right there walking your talk.
Mm-hmm.
What we just talked about earlier, that's you embracing that part of you and being able to share it. And then the other part of that is my truth, my belief is that everything I share will impact let's see how I phrase this. So everything that I share from my truth will impact people in just the right time, will connect with people in just the right time. And I believe that even if they get the message that I write today, and for some reason it's recycled and posted 3 years from now, it's the message that they need to hear in that moment. And I believe that to be true. And so people constantly are connecting with my message because that's what I infuse it with. This is my truth, and I know at the core that people will always connect with this at the right moment.
That's awesome. I feel like that's the principle that everybody is on a trajectory towards, I guess, an ultimate spiritual growth. But we're all everybody's at a different phase of it. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And that's kind of what you were sharing before I think Saran joined is, almost this scarcity piece of, will that resource run out, where people are at the point where they can function all on their own always. And I don't know, that I guess that hasn't really crossed my mind, because I feel like expansion is such an unfolding process always. And as long as I'm living, I'm wanting to expand. And I know there are other people like me as well. And so I feel like my truth is always going to be valuable because of that. Yeah. Nice. So, yeah, so that is kind of the opening exercise, and it really is to shift your mindset. And we kind of talked about getting a different perception around connecting with your ideal client. So now the other piece of the energetic exercise is, how can I energetically start to call in those people I want to work with? And like we talked about in week 1, and what we talk about every week, is setting that intention, placing that order. I also do that with my ideal clients that I want to come in too. And so I expect them to be ready to commit. I expect them to be a good fit. I expect them to be ready to make an impact on the world. I expect them to, so I start to have these expectations like, oh yeah, they'll fit those, because that's who I work with. And so just energetically, I'm not showing up for people who can't afford my services, or for people who aren't ready for change, or for people who aren't ready to commit. I just energetically kind of set that boundary for myself, that these are the people I'm ready to support. And it's different in like my new subscription program that's like less than $40 a month, versus a group program versus a one-on-one coaching program. It's different across then. But I get really clear on the expectation of who I'm wanting and truly desiring to work with, because I know that I'm going to be able to help them, and they're going to be able to up-level because of that mutual commitment. So that's really kind of the energetic side, is essentially setting the intention. So Sarana, is that helpful I know you said you didn't quite get the energetic piece of the workbook, so I'm wondering if there's still lingering questions, or if that is starting to make a little bit more sense.
That makes a lot more sense. So I didn't have so much issue with that part.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first part with imagining them in your head.
Yeah.
Because I think I read the sentence. I read the sentence wrong at the beginning. I was imagining having to get inside the client's head, and I was not understanding.
Yeah. And you're like, wait a sec. Okay. Beautiful. Yeah. So that's, so before I ever create a program, before I ever work one-on-one, before I started this group, before I launch any course, I set the intention so that it's clear to me, it's clear to others, it's just clear across the board of what I desire. And so that, I think, is why I stress the intention piece so much, is really getting clear on that intention from the get-go. So, great. So identifying your ideal client. I know it's pretty clear, I guess from my standpoint. I'm not sure about others. but like the exercises around identifying your ideal client. The first piece I just wanted to say on this is often your ideal client is you a few months or a year ago. Often, it doesn't necessarily need to be age range, marital status, it doesn't have to be all the demographics of you, but it's the mindset and the values of you a little while ago, the struggles of you. So if you think, if you kind of shake out the exterior of how you look and really look internally, that often helps you to define that ideal client. And there's lots of questions around characteristics and values and pain points. But that is, I think, such a beautiful place to start with, especially if you are sharing your truth, because those are the people who are going to connect with you, is the people just a little bit behind you in the process. And so what questions do you guys have around identifying your ideal clients?
So I feel a bit like this is almost a creative writing exercise.
Totally.
So, I mean, obviously, it's kind of me imagining a version of me from a year ago, say. And I can totally do that. But is that how you would approach it? Because as soon as I start to get into things like demographics, I start to get very worried that I'm making wrong decisions. And
yeah, so you can go one of two avenues with this. I've been taught both. I connect really well with one and not so much the other. Well, actually, I connect with both. I'll just share. So one way is, yes, what you just described, of looking at the earlier version of yourself, and really connecting there. Like, what did I say on a morning when I woke up in the morning? What were the first words that came out of my mouth? What did I feel about writing? What did I believe to be true about the world? What did I struggle with? What, you can start to paint that picture for sure. The other piece that I think is super helpful, the more you connect with those ideal clients, is hearing from them the word choice they use. So I've done a lot of discovery calls, and I always ask, one question I ask is, paint your vision for me 4 months from now, and then why don't you have that now, or what gets in the way? And then I hear that same thing over and over and over and over again, because I've talked with so many similar individuals. I know that new coaches often are thinking, what training program should I enroll in, and how do I choose one? Where do I start? What's my niche? How do I identify my ideal client? How do I sign on my first client? Like, I know those common questions, and their pain points are, I want to leave my job, but I'm scared to. I don't know where to even start for my charging, and it feels scary to put a price tag on that. Like, I know because I've communicated and I've talked with different individuals who I perceive as being my ideal client and similar to me in my journey, because of the words that came out of their mouth. So as a starting point, if you haven't talked to anyone, I would recommend starting with the earlier version of you. If you have talked to people, start to create a Word document or a spreadsheet or a journal, whatever. But start to write down, what are the common things that I hear? Is it around finances? Is it around creativity? Is it around, what are those common things? And you'll see really quickly what they are. You can even do polling questions. If you're in a writer's group, for instance, Saran, and you just share with me, what are your biggest concerns around writing your first book? Leave that open and see what word choice they use. And so you can do some of that research and just gather the actual words coming out of their mouth so that you don't have to imagine it. And that becomes, the more and more you work with those individuals or just immerse yourself in that atmosphere, you'll start to see that become really, really clear pretty quickly.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Amanda, what about you? Any questions around your ideal client?
I think I'm still having some doubts because, well, actually, okay, so maybe I'm answering my own question here. Because I keep I'm thinking back to right after the 2016 election and just how horrible I felt along with everybody. And then throughout this year, my transition has been that, okay, well, being angry at the people and blaming and just sort of putting all Republicans in a certain bucket is not helping solve the problem. And so I started turning inward and changing my own outlook on the world. Mm-hmm. And learning to love myself. And that's just transformed everything. And like, oh, well, here's the solution. But so I guess what I'm seeing now is that I have a bunch of friends on Facebook that are still in that mentality from right after the election. Mm-hmm. And they're scientists, most of them. And so I guess that's where I get worried, okay, well, these are the people that I want to help because I can see that they're stuck where I was. But I think that piece about them being scientists, I feel like is going to make it hard for them, hard to attract them because they're so I guess not the scientist part, but that they're atheists and they don't have any spiritual element to their lives as far as I can tell. Mm-hmm. But that's the part that I'd like to introduce into their lives. So maybe I need to find a middle ground, some people that have a little bit of the spirituality and that are fed up with feeling miserable about this thing. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure how to frame these things.
Yeah. Okay. So let's walk through this because I think this will be helpful for you. So share with me what else. What other values? You said spirituality. What other values would this person have?
Compassion and a desire to treat people with dignity. So a lot of it, I guess, my thoughts used to I would get really into the here. Actually, I took some notes right before the call. I was thinking of thoughts that my clients might have is the sky is falling, Chicken Little mentality, everything's falling apart. Fear that not standing in the shoes of people who are oppressed means that they are actually contributing to that oppression. Yeah. And then worry also on like the money thing, like worrying that if they make money, then they're also part of the problem. Or I can't just quit my job, or you can't manifest money. And then I wrote down some like antidotes to that I thought of. But so those are the kind of thoughts that they're having that like, I guess the main core of it is that if I allow myself to be happy, then that makes me a privileged white person and I'm making the problem worse.
Got it. And so with that specifically, what pain you shared a little bit of the pain. So kind of the sky is falling. So maybe more of that like pessimistic viewpoint or focus on the negative things going on in the world. Worry around finances.
Mm-hmm.
What else? What else is the pain, either physically, like finances, or emotionally, like fear?
Fear and depression for sure.
Okay.
Depression, definitely.
Okay.
And then for me, I think the moment that I started to wake up to all of this is that I like posted something on, made a comment. One of my friends posted something that I thought was offensive at the time. And I like wrote something back and I'm like, how dare you say that? And blah, blah, blah. And I just remember feeling so horrible about that afterward. And I was like, here I'm like jumping to a conclusion. Like I'm the one like that's being totally offended by something that, you know, he thought was just a joke. And I'm like, and I just like went like, I was like, okay, I've taken this thing too far and I feel horrible about like being mean to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Okay. That's helpful. And so, let's see here. I have a few more specific questions I want to ask you. And so what are some important things that they value in their life? What else? I know you said spirituality. I know you said compassion. I know you said dignity. What else do they value?
Equality, I guess. And so, yeah, they would definitely value equality and a healthy planet.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And then where do these people hang out?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. Am I supposed to be thinking of people that are similar to me and where they hang out, or people that, I guess I'm picturing people like trapped in an office job or something, or that aren't yet having the kind of job they want, that are like sort of trapped in like a minimum wage situation or slightly above.
Okay. And then thinking about just in general, are there any characteristics, any other characteristics that you haven't shared that this person would have?
I mean, it'd be helpful if they already have like some pretty solid like habits of eating well and exercising and stuff. I feel like, I don't know why, but it just feels like if they already have that sort of set up, then because I feel like that's an important part.
Okay. Yes.
I don't know.
And then when you're finished working with that specific individual, paint a picture of what that person will look like afterwards. How will they feel, and what will be the tangible results?
Awesome. That one's a little easier. They will have a feeling grounded in their own intrinsic value and self-love. And so they'll have a sense of self-love, self-connection, intrinsic worth, and self-compassion that then extends outward to all of humanity. And they'll have an attitude of gratitude for all the things they do have, even starting with the little things.
And then how about tangible results? What will they physically, how will other people know?
Ooh, how will the clients know that they've achieved it?
Mm-hmm. How will the clients know? How will the client's family know? How will you know?
Okay. Well, the clients will know because they'll have, instead of feeling like this like icky feeling in their gut all the time, they'll feel like aligned and spacious and open, and they'll feel like a sense of tenderness and compassion towards other people and be able to like see their suffering. And other people will know because they will be treating everyone differently, and they will be differently, meaning like no matter who they come across, they will be like kind and happy and sort of projecting their sense of self-love, I guess, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Okay. And then how will their relationships change?
They will have, their relationships will change because they'll be attracting in more people that reflect that self-love back to them. And so then that ties in with the gratitude, and they'll think, wow, there's so many really amazing people in the world. And then that just creates a positive feedback loop for more amazing people. I went off on a tangent and I forgot the question.
It was around relationship change. So, Saran, from the outside right now, share with me, what questions do you have for Amanda around this ideal, around the results, and then around the ideal client?
So the question that's coming to mind is, will the client know that that's the result they want?
Beautiful.
That's awesome. Yeah, because they're probably going to be looking for the world's problems to be solved. And I imagine they might be like, well, now I expect that there won't be any violence in the world. There won't be any more, like climate change will go away, blah, blah, blah. But what I think how they'll know that they've gotten their results is that they'll feel at peace in the chaos. And they, coming from that sense of being at peace with the fact that these things are probably never going to end, then they can contribute to make a difference, and they can make a bigger difference, and they'll feel fulfilled and joyful, and that they are making a difference, and that, that their life is also feeling really good, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, Ron? That was a beautiful question.
I agree.
No. I saw that.
Yeah. So I love Saran's question. And that's exactly, Amanda, for you. I heard a few different kind of like golden nuggets. That's the word that always comes to mind for me. Golden nuggets. One day it'll change, but right now it's still golden nuggets. So you specifically, because a lot of the work that is being done is happening internally. And why Saran's question was so beautiful is because sometimes people don't realize the internal work that they want, but they know the external results that they want. And so in your situation, what you shared with me through this communication is they will feel an improvement in their relationships. Like that is one very tangible piece that people will experience. And so improve relationships. Another one is, this is more internal, but it was peace of mind, like peace of mind in the chaos, or having peace of mind. And then the last piece I heard is fulfillment. And I heard earlier you saying people not fulfilled in their jobs, not fulfilled in their place in the world, being easily offended. And so I'm wondering if you finish that sentence, feeling fulfilled in what?
Oh, in their contribution to the world, I'd say. In their place in the world.
Yeah, contribution in their career. Like if that feels more tangible for them, or their contribution to their career and their place in the world. But those
and environmental changes that they want to see happening, and
beautiful. Yeah. Other results would be I think those are three nice pillars, like around relationships, around mindset and kind of peace of mind, or however you want to phrase that, and then around fulfillment, either in career or in environmental piece, however you want to phrase that. But I think those kind of three pillars might be really beautiful, tangible results that people can connect with, so that you can start to shape your message around those cornerstones.
Awesome.
How's that feel?
Yeah, that feels really good.
Cool. Beautiful. Yeah, so we just walked through a little bit of that process. Let's see. And then the last piece of connecting with your ideal client, we're going to talk more about next week as well. But the piece that we just did here around really identifying some of those core pillars. What are those three core pillars? One core pillar, 1 to 3. And then being consistent with sharing your message around that, always coming back to that. So for me, a lot of the work that I do is, now that you've been in the program, you see a lot of it is mindset. There are definitely the tangible tools as well. But I often will focus on more of the tangible pieces. People, often the kind of the 4 big pillars are around relationships. People want to see improvement in their relationships, and they will pay for that. People want to have money, and they will pay for that. People want to be healthy and be well, and people will pay for that. And then people want to, those 3, and then usually around career, have like a fulfilling career. So those often are like the 4 pillars. I mean, there's lots of other pieces around creativity and contribution and spiritual growth, but it's also how is it connected to one of those? You know, it's connected to your relationship. Maybe that's your relationship with yourself. Maybe that's your relationship with a partner. But you first need to work on yourself. So always thinking about kind of that tangible result as well, and in their mind. You can poll this, even do a polling. You know, why is it important for you to write your first book? And they'll share with you, well, it's for my contribution in the world. Okay, that fits into the fulfilling career. It's for my own wellness treatment, you know, for my own personal health, so that it's the last step in me overcoming physical pain, and really owning that. Okay, that's around the pillar of health. Often it falls into one of those pillars. And so by simply asking, you know, what is the number one thing you want to gain from coaching, or from reading a book, or from any personal development you do, you'll be able to gain really quickly what that value is and what that result is that they desire.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of bringing that tangible piece in to the energetic work as well. Yeah, questions, anything coming up for that you want to process or think about or say out loud?
I'm having a hard time figuring out how to balance what I think that other people need with what they actually want. Because because I didn't realize when I started this journey that my anger and outrage after the election was really stemming from a lack of self-love. Like, I don't think that people are going to make that connection right away.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what we need, because when I see people lashing out and expecting other people to change, I think it's because maybe they're missing that self-love piece, or the inner work, the inner connection piece first, to be able to love their dark parts in order to be able to accept that other people have maybe even darker parts that are playing out in the world, so that we can actually change the problem with the different style of thinking that created it. Yeah.
So either one of you can answer, Saran or Amanda, to this. So thinking about that specifically, that example specifically, what ideas do you have to communicate that to your ideal clients? Or is that something you want to communicate to your ideal clients?
Personally, if that's not what they're looking for, well, I might write about it and include it because it's part of what I'm thinking about and doing. I wouldn't put it on a sales page, for instance. I think they need something more tangible, like improve the relationship with all those family members that they're no longer talking to after the election, and, you know, whatever, those sorts of tangible things. Mm-hmm. So talk about it, but I wouldn't sell it. Yeah.
Okay. Love it. Yes, I would say something very similar. I personally would say, yeah, on your sales page, when you are launching something or promoting something, speak to the pain points that you know for certain that they're struggling with, that they can comprehend, that they truly feel that they want to shift and change. However, if you share in, you know, social media posts or videos, sharing that story can be really powerful, because people might not even think about that. That might shift something inside of them. So, and it's part of your truth. It's part of your journey. So that's why it's important. And that's why people will connect with it, is because that was a big shift for you. And so, I think combining the strategy piece, like, okay, now I know, once I talk to enough people, I'll really get to know what so clearly are those pain points and struggles and results that they want. While I can share on this topic in other platforms, to help shift people's perspective, because that's part of my bigger vision for myself. Is that helpful, Amanda? Kind of hearing?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like I don't feel really solid that I totally know what other people's pain points are, but well, actually, no, that's not true. If I thought about it and looked at people's Facebook posts, because there's fear around losing health insurance, there's fear about losing women's rights, there's fear around not having enough, not being able to make enough money, there's fear about dismantling of all the environmental regulations and all these things, and then so all those things are ultimately like a fear of not being in control of the situation, I think.
Yeah, or safety.
Yes. Feeling helpless and unsafe. Yeah.
I hear at the core, I don't feel safe. And so they might not know the language around I don't feel safe, but they do know the language of what you shared before. Like, are you sick of being pissed off and triggered by every single post you read on social media? Are you annoyed that you can't even sit down and have a conversation with your family without getting into an argument? Are you in fear constantly of what the president might say or do? Are you like, you can paint that picture in those words pretty clearly from just what you shared right there. Cool. And just start taking note, take screenshots of the language people are using. Okay. And then start to see where, the commonalities there. And so you ultimately are probably going to be teaching around self-love and around feeling safe. Yep. And also like abundance, kind of that abundance mindset rather than scarcity. But people might not realize any of those pillars are what they need. In their mind, they want to improve their relationship with their family. They want to be able to not be triggered by every post so that they can still engage in social media and have it be a pleasant space. And they want to contribute to the world at large and feel fulfilled and excited and expansive in their work, or, whatever language you want to use. So I think, is that helpful? Kind of being really explicit about likely the inner work that you're doing, but overtly talking about what they see as the issue and the concern.
Yeah. Cool. I love it. Thanks.
Welcome. Yeah. So we have like 15 minutes or so, and I'm here. Whatever, I'm done talking about what I wanted to cover today. So if there's any other coaching or questions or things that come up either related to this topic or not, let me know and we can walk through them and do some coaching as well.
If you're going to start, like you've never done Facebook Live and you're going to start, what's a kind of safe, small way to start? I don't want to go live in a public arena. What would you suggest?
Yeah, so in the Aligned Coaching Group, feels really small and safe. Like that's less than 10 people. So that's an option. I always like to invite people to share in my Facebook group, Untamed Women in Business. That's like 350 people. So that's a smaller compared to, it's all relative. So the other piece could be recording yourself first, and then sharing that, like recording yourself on video first and sharing that. That can feel like a little safer of a step. Yeah, I guess the question I would have for you is, what feels scary, or just kind of in general, what are you most scared of about going visible or public and sharing your message?
So I'm really scared of Facebook. I don't know why. Like I'm just about to start posting articles on Medium, because that feels safer, because I don't have friends on it Medium. I mean, I know I have got friends who look on Medium, but it doesn't feel so exposed. It feels like it's slightly more anonymous, like no one gives a shit who I am. So yeah, so I'm really struggling with posting to Facebook. It's really become a bit of a thing. Mm-hmm. Even though I have in the past, I'm just scared.
Yeah. And so, Amanda, what questions might you have for Saran in this situation?
I guess digging deeper into the what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of being judged by your friends? Are you afraid of, is it a vulnerability thing? What's the worst that would happen if your friends saw what you wrote?
So all my friends who are from my old career, so corporate career, be like, she left work to do this. What the fuck? So yeah, she'll be back in tax in no time. You know, just that sort of response.
I have the same fear. The same thing. Okay, what's the best thing that could happen if you
so I could get validation that other people feel the same way, and sort of and figure out who my people are, like if they're really the people I'm expecting them to be or not.
And I have one more question. What's more important to you? External validation from people on the outside or internal validation from yourself?
Internal validation.
And the question that I have is, what's the worst thing that could happen if you don't?
Well, I could waste my, I've definitely wasted the opportunity of leaving my job. Because I'm not, I'm just completely invisible, and I can't achieve anything I want to if I stay invisible. I have, in order to do what I want to do, I have to get visible.
In order to do what I want to do, I have to get visible. Does that feel expansive, or does that feel what in your body physically right now? What's happening as you say that?
It feels like a hurdle that I just have to get over. And it feels... So when I say it like that, it doesn't feel scary anymore. It feels kind of annoying. It doesn't feel scary.
Yeah. And so what's different now?
I no longer feel like not sharing is really an option.
Yeah. And so how is your order different now? I'm going to talk about placing your order, placing your intention. How is it different now than it was before this conversation?
So now I intend to show up in a really high energy way and just flip and do it.
Because
this is what I'm meant to do, and it's the way that I'm meant to help other people, and that like me showing up shows other people that they can do it too.
Yeah. So this might feel super awkward, but I want you to stand up.
Okay.
And take the posture. Kind of give that power stance. Yeah. And I know it feels weird and it feels awkward, but I want you to say what you just said with a little more authority and a little more certainty and a little bit more sass and a little bit more like sovereign.
Okay. I intend to show up and be visible, because by showing up, I show other people that they can too.
Yes. Yeah. How can you raise the intensity even one more notch?
Speak more certainly and not pause so much. It is important to me, and I intend to show up, to make myself visible on Facebook, wherever I have to show myself. I'm going to be visible there, and I'm doing it because that means that other people will see it's possible.
Yeah.
Yes. You're speaking from your heart that time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Was that believable for you?
Yes. I think I could probably do it. I quite like the way it feels, like to stand up and do that. I do a lot of talking in the mirror. I do it when I have to do speeches and things. It's not like I'm not used to being visible, but not offline. Like, and I practice in the mirror. And I've got a full length mirror on my wardrobe. I could just imagine standing there in that pose and doing that every morning.
Yes. Yes. So Tony Robbins has this beautiful video. It's a bit obnoxious, but it works. I've done it. And I think he calls it cantations. But it's essentially like getting your physical body into that space beforehand. And so that, what you just did, is a really beautiful way to shift your physiology of your body to get into that new space. Another one is, have either of you done rapid fire breath? It's a Kundalini yoga practice.
I've done it at yoga.
Okay, yeah. So that essentially is, you know, as you breathe in, your stomach goes out, and you just breathe really quickly, like. And I do that personally, like 50 to 100 breaths before, if I'm feeling hesitant, if I'm feeling like I need that little extra oomph. So shifting your physiology can be a really powerful tool. And we could see it. Like, you could feel it and we could see it. Amanda was like, oh yeah, I could feel the heart the most in the last one. And that is sometimes all you need, is that tiny little shift of changing your physiology. And that's enough to get out of your head and do the damn thing. Do the thing that you know is so aligned with your purpose, with your greater purpose in the world. And kind of the opposite, the piece I just wanted to share out loud is that one of the fears you said is that people will think, oh, you left your job for that? She'll be right back at it. When the truth is, if I don't share these things and connect with people, I will be right back at it. So it's interesting how that played out, but I think really beautiful just to reflect on too is those limiting beliefs often keep us from our ultimate truths. Do you feel good about that, Saran, or are you wanting any additional?
No, I feel that feels really good, and I really want to go and practice in the mirror.
Yay! So accountability-wise, do you want to set an intention around this, a goal around this, whether it's even just a weekly goal, or I'm curious if there's something you want to be held accountable for, and maybe we can support you in that as well. Like, if you post in my group, I'll be sure to comment and have Amanda comment, or share with us what would feel really supportive for you in this process.
Okay, so I'm going to post a video in the Aligned coaching group first, and it would be really nice if you'd just comment and maybe like it. That would be great. And then I might this week, but I definitely will next week, post in the Untamed Women in Business. If I'm feeling like, yes, I can do it, then I'll post it this week.
Awesome. That, I love it. I can feel the energy around it, the excitement around it. And I'd say when that excitement is there, go. Like, that inspiration is there, go. Because it's going to come and it'll hit you, and then you might put it on the back burner, and it'll come again. But I just, honoring that nudge, trusting that nudge can be really powerful. So beautiful. Awesome. And then Amanda, do you want to be held accountable for anything over the next week?
Yes, and I'm going to actually another life coaching workshop for 4 days in Sacramento. So, which are going to be like all day long from like 6 to 9 p.m. or like 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for like 4 days in a row. So, I'm not going to have any time to do anything until maybe Monday or Tuesday.
So what intention can you set while you are at, what goal around your business specifically can you practice as you communicate with other life coaches at your event?
I guess some of it for me is I'm feeling like not comfortable stepping into that coaching role. So it might be a really good opportunity for me to practice stepping into that role rather than being the person that's being coached. Get more comfortable with what it feels like to be on the other side of it and supporting other people.
Yes. Yes. So physically, what will that look like? How will you know you've accomplished that?
I think I'll have a new level of confidence. Yeah, if that made any sense.
Yeah, and so I'm just thinking out loud, but a couple things that come into mind for you then are, number one, calling yourself a coach, owning it.
Okay.
Number two, getting clear on your message and your why and being able to articulate that. You know, when people ask what type of coach you are, you can share, and you're able to articulate that. And even the programs that you're starting, the group program that you're starting soon, really kind of like physically, or emotionally and energetically stepping into that, but also physically too, and owning those intentions and being able to articulate them and share them with others, because you never know. Someone there might really be interested in your services, and by you stepping into that role of a coach, you're then opening up opportunity to receive a client as well.
Cool. Okay, thanks. Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Yay, I just love these calls. Beautiful. Well, we are right at time. Any last parting questions or words that you desire to share? Okay. Well, thank you. If you do, and anyone listening to this on the recording too, if you are wanting more support around identifying your ideal clients or just questions in general, being held accountable, I'll put an accountability thread in, and being sure to share celebrations too, because we want to celebrate with all of you. And so I look forward to meeting next week at 3:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I hope y'all have a beautiful week.
You too.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you. Bye-bye.